inflammation is also systemic, not only local but also systemic. And the gut microbiota, the gut immune system, the liver, the muscle, the brain, and the adipose tissue are involved. So it's very complex. Inflammation is a major component of immunosenescence, and as John said, this was the topic of my, a major topic of my investigation, and this is an important paper that describe for the first time what happened to the immune system during aging at extreme ages like in centenarians. And I was one of the first to start looking at centenarians as a model of longevity and healthy aging in humans. Then we contributed by describing the major characteristic of human senescence. We described the decrease of naive T cells in the periphery, the shrinkage of T cell repertoire, the increased number of memory cells, T cells, and the oligoclonal expansion of memory lymphocytes. And these are some of the major publications that date back to some 15 years ago, something like that. And if you would like to know a little bit more, there is a small booklet of only 1,600 pages which summarize what we know about immunosenescence. And the basic idea is that it's not important not only inflammation but also anti-inflammation, and that is probably the balance between inflammation and anti-inflammation that matters for the eventual outcome. As I said, the phenotype of centenarians is unexpectedly complex, being a mixture of robustness and frailty. What is coming out is that centenarians, contrary to the previous expectation and hypothesis, do have genetic risk alleles for major age-related diseases, despite their remarkable postponing or avoiding this type of diseases. And I am pleased to show you that in a paper of about 12, 13 years ago, in which Maria is always one of the co-authors, we were the first to suggest that genetic variants, in this case of p53, predisposing to cancer. We were studying a polymorphism of p53, which is much more frequent in breast cancer, in another type of cancer, that these variants predisposing to cancer are present in healthy centenarians. And for that period, this was something totally new. And in recent years, other groups showed that even genome-wide studies suggest that centenarians do have the genetic risk alleles. So what rendered them so strong and so long-living is probably something else, so the presence of protective alleles. Centenarians are stressed, and I found some years ago that they have much higher plasma level of cortisol, of CRF, and of ACTH, the major player of the stress response. They are highly inflamed. This is the case of interleukin-6, but this is true also for many other compounds. And you can see that most of the centenarians have much higher level of this pro-inflammatory cytokine. But they have something special. You know that the insulin resistance increases with age, but after age 85 decreases. And in centenarians, very few, if any, have insulin resistance. And this is probably a prerequisite to become a centenarian, and fits with the basic idea that the IGF-1 insulin pathway is so important for longevity in model system from yeast to humans. And another very important, important finding was that IGF-1 is very low in centenarians. IGF-1 is a growth factor for cancer, So this can explain, at least in part, why centenarians are protected from cancer, but there is a price to pay because IGF-1 is also important for muscle mass and function, and so the centenarians have a lot of sarcopenia. So, and the other point very important is that we found that IGF plasma levels are correlated with polymorphism of IGF-1 receptor and PI3 kinase, which are the homologs in humans of the basic age genes that Tom Johnson found in C. elegans. We also published a paper in 2000, which was probably too premature, because we showed that CD34 positive cells, which are the homopoietic stem cells, are decreasing in number, but if you put them in culture in optimal conditions, they produce colonies of the granulocyte, megakaryocyte, and so on, indistinguishable from that of young guys. So this suggests that they are very well preserved, only diminished in number, and that what matters is the environment, because we found that with age the amount of circulating factors important for hemopoiesis like IL-3, GM-CSF, stem cell factor, and so on, are totally deranged. So it's the environment which has changed and not the stem cells as such. And this, the experiment of Tom Rando at Stanford now showed experimentally in the mouse model that this is probably true, and that if you put stem cells of old guys in a young environment, they do perfectly well, but if you do vice versa, young stem cells in old mice, they do not work properly. So it's the environment, the context, which matters. The cells from centenarians are very tough. For example, when they are starved, they become cannibals. This is something that we described recently, and this is a lymphoblastoid cell line from a centenarian which is eating another cells because it's starved. And this is not seen in lymphoblastoid cell line from young or old people, but only in cells from centenarians. And I think this could help probably in becoming centenarian. A little bit of a few words about an important point, the relationship between demography and genetics. And we published a paper, and again Maria is a co-author. Maria, you were a co-author of the most important papers that we published, together with Jim Vopel, a distinguished demographer, and Anatoly Yashin, which is now at Duke, suggesting that if you would like to understand the genetics of aging, you have to take into account the demography of aging. This is a theoretical paper with a lot of formulas, but is pioneering the field of the connection between genetic and demography. And then I studied the genetics of longevity, as I coordinated the big European study, GEA, Genetics of Healthy Aging, and we recruited in 11 countries 90 plus SIP pairs, because longevity runs in the family, and the same number of geographically matched controls. And because, as I said, human longevity cluster in families, and siblings of centenarians have higher probability to become centenarians also. And from twin studies, it appears